An IndiGo flight from Delhi to Srinagar faced a terrifying mid-air hailstorm on Wednesday evening, forcing the pilot to declare an emergency. You would all remember this. Flight 6E2142 encountered sudden and severe turbulence near Srinagar. The pilot viewers in the latest we're learning sought permission from Lahore Air Traffic Control to briefly enter Pakistan airspace to avoid the weather, but the request was denied. This is according to PTI sources. Now, despite the rough conditions, the aircraft landed safely at the Srinagar International Airport and all 227 passengers and crew members were unharmed. The airline in fact confirmed. Now, sources told PTI that the pilot first noticed turbulence while flying over Amritsar and requested a deviation through Pakistani airspace, but was turned down by Lahore ATC. The aircraft then continued on its original path and hit severe turbulence. Following the Pahalgam terror attack that killed 26 people, viewers, Pakistan has shut its airspace to Indian carriers, and India has also imposed similar restrictions on Pakistani flights. To Mark Martin, CEO, Martin Consulting and Aviation Expert. I'm also joined by Group Captain V.N. Jha, Aerospace Expert and former IAF officer. I'll come to you, Group Captain. Do tell us, how can Pakistan really justify denying emergency airspace access to a civilian aircraft facing life-threatening weather conditions? What does it really tell us about Pakistan? A rogue state, clearly.
Very good morning, Neha. You have already answered half of my answer. Rogue state can do anything. You can't predict what it will do, especially if it is a request to help out certain situations of a nation whom they consider as enemy. But we know we are working for the humanity. Having said that, usually what happens in the passenger aircrafts, a larger passenger aircraft with a lot of resources at the hand of the pilot, is that they have got a very robust weather radar. And that radar indicates the pilot well in advance that you are heading for a hailstorm, or may not be hailstorm something, but there's a very heavy cloud ahead of you, including the CB clouds that may be forewarned. And usually, most of the pilots, they would like to avoid entering hailstorms and the CB clouds that usually can break even the aircraft. They were very lucky. I must compliment them that they were very lucky that it was only a minor damage that they have endured. And that too has possibly happened in a section which is unpressurized. So compliments to all passengers to have, passed the severity of the events, what would have happened. But having said that, I must also say that possibly the pilot has not used all his resources at hand. Now, if your weather radar says that you have got very severe weather ahead, there are options. There are clearly many options. One is to skirt around the most dense of the weather. Secondly, is climb over. Most of these weather phenomena, they happen in the lower strata of the troposphere. As you climb up maybe above 28,000 feet, 30,000 feet, those are no longer experienced, though other types of problems may be encountered. Third is you may choose to land at the earliest, nearest runway for the time period till the time that hailstorm is gone. If the Pakistani airspace, they didn't deny. Still, on a lighter note, I feel that the pilot didn't use all these resources. Pilot should have communicated to Lahore that they have got half Pakistanis, many of the half Pakistanis on board, who eat, drink, and sleep Pakistan in their lifetime. They had three such leaders on board. That resources, of course, could have been utilized, and those leaders could have said that I'm coming to Srinagar to serve you or your interest or maybe something else. I won't name them. So, these are on the lighter notes. But having seen at the type of damage that has happened on the nose section, cone section of the aircraft. It was really scary.
Right,
Had
sir.
that happened in the window pans, maybe of the pilot of the cockpit or somewhere else, the aircraft would have gone into the very rapid depressurization, and that loss of pressurization could have broken the aircraft into the pieces. Large volume aircraft are especially vulnerable to that. So, compliments to the pilot. There are many actions that our co-panelists also would, suggest you. They can reduce the pressurization so that there is a lesser change in the pressurization within and outside. Those are the technical issues that pilots often have at their hand.
Right,
But at a
sir.
short notice, that cannot happen.
Right, so
Neha.
sir, continue to stay with us. Let me quickly go across to Mr. Mark Martin. Mr. Martin, given the turbulence and the emergency declared by the IndiGo pilot, do tell our viewers how grave was the situation from an aviation safety standpoint.
Yes. Hi, Neha. Good morning. Okay, let's be very, very clear. Let's be factually right. This is a goof up of IndiGo. IndiGo Flight Operations and Dispatch issued a flight plan. They also gave a NOTAM to the pilot. They know very well the airspace was closed. Weather prediction was already there in the flight plan. Okay. Now, if the weather was below operating minima or below the pilot minima, the aircraft should not even taken off, because when the weather is bad, you turn back and you divert. That's the first thing. Second of all, the most important thing I want to clarify here is that even if it's not about Pakistan being a rogue state or Pakistan being anything, we're all governed by ICAO contracting states agreement. Nobody owns the sky. Nobody owns any sky. India doesn't own ours, and neither does Pakistan. But there are protocols in place. You have something called an ATC and FIC. If you want to enter Pakistan airspace, then you need to apply 3 hours before that, because of weather, our aircraft might come into your airspace. You're being advised now to clear my aircraft if it enters your airspace by accident. Okay, you can't just randomly be flying. Okay, fine. Pilots request deviation due bad weather, and they usually do that within Indian airspace, so within the airspace they're into. But you cannot do that in foreign airspace. You can't do it in Bangladesh. You can't do it in Thailand. You can't do it even in Muscat or Oman. So I want to clarify one point very, very clearly here. And again, Neha, no political agendas. This is very, very important. If, first of all, the pilot messed up, he flew into a cumulonimbus cloud. These are thunderstorm clouds. I'll agree with Mr. Jha. He was very, very lucky because he obviously came out in one piece. But I think you never enter a CB cloud when you have passengers on board. And this is not about damage control aircraft or him doing a great job by landing. If he knew he was going to get into a CB, if he knew he couldn't go into Pakistan airspace to avoid weather, he should have turned back, diverted back to Delhi or Amritsar and landed there and waited for the weather to get better and gone back.
All right.
What he's done is extremely risky. This is going to be a big DGC investigation. I know it. And on a very, very important note here, there is a NOTAM which is out which says airspace closure. So when you're aware of the NOTAM, why even ask somebody to come to their house? So let's be very, very clear. The airline is responsible. The pilot was extremely lucky. He got out in one piece. There will be a DGC investigation. I know it. And this is something which we in India cannot take lightly. Because if the weather's bad, you turn back. You don't risk it. And he is not just lucky. There's a very thin line between being brave and being stupid. And clearly, that's exactly what happened here.
All right, Mr. Martin, continue to stay with us. Group Captain, let me come to you. You heard Mr. Martin, but I have a question for you. Sir, does Pakistan's denial not sort of set a dangerous precedence for global aviation safety during emergencies? What if more nations start weaponizing airspace access in emergencies? While it may be a goof up on part of the IndiGo, like Mr. Martin rightly pointed out, but I'd like you to answer this, Well,
Neha, to be very frank, Pakistan may be within its right to deny a normal, a deviation from the course. And as our co-panelists say that when you go to the, before the pilot comes to the aircraft, he gets the flight plan, he gets the clearance from the air traffic control, and that's the place where he files his flight plan. What usually his altitude, usually his directions, usually the nearby deviations. So all those things he has. ADC is mandatory, the air defense clearance. So air defense clearance within Indian airspace, air defense clearance, Pakistan, you are not concerned. Under those grave situations, if the situation is so grave that you can neither deviate from your path, neither skirt around the weather that you have, and you don't have any landing space nearby, which I don't agree that is ever possible. But even then, you can go into the foreign airspace if it is close by, and declare emergency that I have got emergency, I cannot deviate, I have come here, please assist. And then the air traffic control, although they will keep you under the surveillance, they will warn you that you are under the Pakistan's airspace and they are the air defense SOPs in place. But then you skirt around and again come back. You tell them exactly your intention. These do happen in given cases. But this was a very risky thing by the pilot to have happened, because rapid decompression, what I mentioned to you, RD, in a large volume aircraft, our co-pilots will tell you, the windows can just break open. The aircraft can break into two. All those things we have had in the history. And history always repeats if the situations are like that. Hailstorms.
Neha, I'll come in here. Neha, I'll come in here. I think a couple of things over here. We have to understand that no country, whether it's India, Pakistan, or China, is insensitive to an emergency. Pakistan in the past, how many SpiceJet aircraft and IndiGo aircraft have diverted into Karachi in emergency? Several. Okay, even when diplomatic ties were not there, they allowed us. And we also allowed them. 15, 20 years ago, the ILS procedure into Amritsar involved coming over Lahore, and they allowed it. Similarly, landing in Amritsar, our aircraft used to enter Pakistan airspace, turn back and come in for the approach. So it's not that airspace is insensitive. Here in this case, there are protocols which have to be followed, ATC, FIC. And the other thing is, I'm going to partially agree with Group Captain Jha here. The windshield on a 320 is a PPG 7-pane windshield. It can withstand almost a projectile if required. So, and there are procedures. You reduce your speed, go below 220 to 210 knots. You try and maneuver through. But then again, the point is, where does the buck stop? The buck stops with dispatch with ATC, because when you're flying, pilots talk to other pilots in ATC and confirm weather in Srinagar. Many times it's happened. The guy will contact the FIR region and say, okay, please, can you please confirm back latest Srinagar weather? The guy says, okay, sir, TSRA, airfield Bino Milama or cloud-based 3000 or 1500 or whatever. So you just turn back. It was, like I said, there's a thin line between being brave and being stupid.
All right.
And when you know very well that the airspace is closed, why even try? And, and see that now what Group Captain Jha said is declare emergency. It's not that easy. You declare emergency, tomorrow DGCA will destroy your license and your flying career is ended. We have the toughest civil aviation regulator in Asia. So, declaring emergency or PAN becomes a major incident over foreign soil, because their investigation comes involved in ours. So all I'm going to end this by saying, he was ridiculously lucky. I'll agree with Group Captain Jha. Luck was on his side, but lightning never strikes the same place twice. In bad weather, as safety professionals, we're all pilots. When you know the weather's bad, you don't risk the lives of 180 people on board, irrespective of whoever they are, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, whatever they are. You turn back and land, because the pilot's life is also important, and his crew. You don't do something stupid like this, which is bravado. And I hope the DGCA comes out with a stern circular on this, because this such kind of brave, bravado has to come to an end. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you so much, Neha. Thanks for having me today.